Hello and welcome to Roll for Topic, a very special Roll for Topic. I'm Chris Salzman.
And I'm Andy Rao.
And this week we're joined by...
Kyle Latino. This is
Good
the
job,
sound of my
Kyle.
voice.
Yes.
Thank you. I remembered my name and everything.
Yeah, well thank you, Kyle, for coming back on. This is a very special, maybe a holiday episode, I guess you could say, where we are going to build a dungeon together. And then we're going to have a follow-up episode in a couple weeks or so where we make some other people play through it. Yeah, so I think this is actually going to be pretty fun. It could be a terrible train wreck, but hey, it's the end of the year, so we're going to try something. Yeah, Andy, why don't you go through a little bit of sort of the document you wrote up? I know we just talked about it, but if you could go through again, like kind of what our framework is going to be for putting this thing together.
For sure. So I figured that a good way to structure this is we would spend a little bit of time at the beginning talking about the kind of dungeon we would like to build. We'll talk about what levels is it for? What's the theme of the dungeon? Does the dungeon have a general, aesthetic to it? What kinds of what types of creatures and inhabitants might you find in the dungeon? And then once we've established some of those basic details, we would move in and we'd maybe map out 6 or 7 key encounter areas or rooms in the dungeon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then just see where it goes.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, we had talked before we jumped on that, like, the thought is that this is something you could run for, like, intro-level players, right? Levels 1 through 3 in the D&D parlance, maybe 3 to 4 characters. So that'll give us, like, a little bit more of a framework, and then the reason we're thinking, like, 6 to 7 rooms or 6 to 7 encounters is that we also don't want it to go on forever. So it's more of, like, a one-shot idea. I have not personally made a ton of dungeons. I'm sure, like, I have lots of ideas and stuff for encounters. So I'm curious, before we get, like, too far into it, like, what's your guys' experience with doing this? And, like, how do you typically approach kind of a greenfield project like this where you're looking at, like, how do I build a whole thing out for my players?
Okay, I think I've said this probably on several. I think I probably said this every time, but I do think that the first edition Pathfinder beginner box dungeon is really good. It's just like, it's super simple. It's easy to roll out for a one shot, and it has a great mixture of, like, random artifacts to play with, and then also like a kind of more of a story-driven, like, monster-based thing. So it has a lot of different kinds of challenges in a very small space, which is nice.
Am I remembering, does that one end with, like, a dragon that you sort of start to fight and then it flies away?
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
designed, there's like a scripted, you can't kill me, and then so that's where your true adventure begins. Beginner box, buy the full 600-page Pathfinder Jimble Jam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've run that a couple times as well, and I concur. It's a really good beginner dungeon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, not that the players we'll be playing with are necessarily beginners, but I'm wondering, like, so what the things that, like, to me that stick out about that adventure, right, are just that, like, you have sort of this, like, you're in a new place, you're kind of exploring, and then you hit something that's just, like, totally insurmountable, which is pretty fun. But are there other, like, intro level dungeons you've played or run that you really liked?
Not that I didn't design myself.
Okay. Yeah.
I actually find that a lot of, and I've tried to run, like, a couple of the dungeons from, like, Tales of the Yawning Portal 5th edition, like, classics, like 5th edition takes on Sunless Citadel and things like that. And I think they're actually, like, remarkably difficult to run and difficult for players to read as, like, a space that has contingent meaning between rooms.
Yeah.
So that's my answer.
My
you
experience,
just put everybody on blast. Okay.
My experience running dungeons kind of as intro experiences is actually that there's usually not a lot of dungeons in them. Most of the dungeons I've made myself tend to have some sort of structure or facility on top of them, and the dungeon is usually, like, the literal dungeons of that facility, or some sort of subterranean levels. And so I'm actually used to having that initial kind of welcome to D&D experience being making your way through the ruins of a castle or an old, an old structure of some sort. And then sometimes the PCs will enjoy that dungeon crawling enough that we'll just continue down into the dungeon. And sometimes they're like, oh, that was fun, let's go to a different place. So Yeah, this will, if we wind up doing an actual, like, honest to God, under the ground worms and dirt dungeon, it will be somewhat fresh and new to me.
Yeah, I like that. Like, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards, right? So again, like, the people we'll be playing with have, and I like kind of designing stuff based on the people that you know you'll be playing with, because I think it's a little bit more fun to have it be personalized. So they're all like hardened veterans of tabletop games. You could say, right? Like, these are people that have been around for a while. So like, part of me wants to just lean heavily into tropes, because I think that's kind of fun. Not surprise them. It's like there is a dank dungeon below the castle, or like you find a cave while you're out exploring.
Yeah. There's a hole in the ground. Why don't you all just climb into it and see
it? Yeah, I like it. You know, it's like there's a hole in the ground, and like if they decide to ignore it, like the hole follows them around until they jump in.
Wizards of the Coast, I think Chris is available to for freelance work. The
hole follows you. Goblins come out of it.
Yeah.
Is all this to say, are we all leaning towards building a hole in the wall or hole in the ground underground series of Labyrinth dungeon? Because there's this other tradition of D&D dungeons, which is like weird locations. Mm-hmm. Like some of the weirdest being like there's a crashed spaceship, something is underwater facility, or an ice fortress. I mean, there's been weird stuff throughout the history of D&D. Yeah. So do you guys want to do weird, or do you guys want to do like the standard? I think either would be fun to explore. But I don't know.
Weird's pretty great. Like, my initial thought was, I mean, could you do a dungeons that is essentially just like a modern day supermarket? Right? Like, is there a way to describe it to the players such that it's like them as, you know, Middle Ages style fantasy adventurers wouldn't understand any of this, but like to the modern eye, it's clearly...
I think actually the problem with doing like structure with like modern or realistic structures like that is that they tend to have really dull layouts. Mm-hmm. You know, when you're doing kind of more underground labyrinth, you can have it be twisting in all mm-hmm. different directions and stuff like that. But you know, it would be hilarious to, you know, stat out a Walmart, but it would be like a giant room with a few, you know, adjoining office stuff there. You know, there wouldn't be that weirdness of navigation that you get when you have a more fantastic environment.
I mean, what if you statted out, I mean, this is just to borrow from Stranger Things directly, like stat out a mall, right? Like, that's a slightly more interesting structure.
It is labyrinthine. It does have, yeah, it does have kind of like twisting corridors and, mm-hmm. you know, back passages and
balconies and stairs.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and if it was an actual honest to goodness mall, you know, it would evoke that post-apocalyptic vibe that is present mm-hmm. in a lot of at least early D&D.
Yeah.
Anyway. That would be interesting. I think a mall is probably too ambitious for the scope of a one shot, but it would be interesting to do something that's like Stephen King's The Mist, but from the other dimensions point of view.
Oh,
so like suddenly like the fantasy dimension is accosted by like a bus stop or something like that, with a bunch of like scared Americans that are armed to the teeth because they're from Idaho or something.
Yeah.
A bunch of level 1 monsters venturing into the gas station to investigate.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Also, like, you're a 400-foot tall monstrosity coming from the mist. But, you know.
That'll be in the next episode. We'll do like the crazy. Yeah.
Huh. I like that idea a lot, but
you know, yeah, that's I think that's definitely follow-up territory. I think you know what would be great is to make a dungeon that just like happens to be in the basement of whatever you all meet in a tavern is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, because that way it's like you can start the adventure, you can have some quick role play, and then there's a scream from the basement, and then you're off to the races, you know?
Yeah. I like that. So, like, you'd go down to the basement because there's a scream, and then it's just like, it is a dungeon, or is there like a hole in the wall, or a hole that follows you around the basement?
Yeah, I think either a hole in the wall or some kind of like cursed mirror or something mm-hmm. like that. Something that is intriguing, that beckons that beckons you to explore it further. I don't know. I feel like there's a lack of a hook there, but I'm just thinking like as for simplicity, like intro level stuff, like how do you get right to that dungeon? In maybe I'm trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist.
Oh, well, I mean, it's kind of interesting. It reminds me there's like an anecdote of a very early D&D game, and I don't know who the famous people were that were playing, but like the inn that they were in, that they started in, like it was just like a pretty normal place, but then when they tried to leave, they just kind of went out one door and came in another.
Yeah.
And it was like, then they had to figure out like what's going on. So I like the idea of starting them in a place where they think they know what's going on. Like as soon as they start exploring, it's not what they think.
An advantage, I wouldn't say it's the most inspired idea ever, but the advantage of the going down into the basement and there's more down there than you realize has the advantage of starting out, with something kind of familiar. And then, I do kind of like the idea of like, the basement is adjacent to a very unnatural, set a complex or something like that. And for somehow a connection has been opened up, the wall broke. Something broke through the wall or something like that.
This is like the reverse of the D&D cartoon. Did you ever see that? Like the kids are at a carnival and then they get sucked into a D&D.
Yeah, because they were on the famous Dungeons and Dragons roller coaster.
Yeah. Okay, so I think I like this path we're heading down. Let's just like put that to the side for right now and just come up with something totally different so we can kind of like see which one we like. So the other option is to go to something that's like they're just venturing out somewhere right there in the woods somewhere and they stumble across something, or like you mentioned an Arctic fortress or like the alien spaceship or like something like that. Or having to just be like you're just in a big forest looking for something. Right, so there's no like rooms necessarily. It's just a bunch of encounters. They could run.
I think a couple thoughts real quick. I think first of all, I'm all for the like starting the adventure with like you're in front of the weird Arctic fortress, like and let the GM figure out how they got there or the players figure it out. And I think for the purposes of our exercise right now, I would probably vote for something that's like a somewhat contained internal environment, not like an open area thing, although it would be super fun now that I think of it to also design like a hex map environment in which this could be placed, maybe a future episode, right?
Please invite me on for the hex crawl episode.
Yes.
I would love to do that. I really like this is going to sound dumb, but I really like walls. Because they are very,
you're right.
they are very clear obstacles that limit information, but also don't like I have never had a player yet who goes into a cave and they say, and the hallway ends in a T-junction. You can go left or right. And they say like, well, I use my warhammer and bash through the middle to see if there's a wall on the other, a room on the other end, which is a totally legit thing. But it is an obstacle that seems to lend itself to like telegraphing where people should go, and they're solving a navigational problem as opposed to a rickety bridge or like an other physical challenge that is met with some kind of skill roll. And that's why I like dungeons as finite, clearly defined spaces, because it gets people to interact with the rooms and problem solve without rolling dice.
Yeah. And then I think it also, like, to that point, and just kind of restate that, it keeps them from trying a bunch of stuff that's just sort of not going to go anywhere. Yeah. It's like, if you have sort of infinite space on every side of you, like, well, just go in a different direction. But like, it's like, well, you got to kind of focus your players a bit with the architecture.
So let's make some executive decisions here just to get us rolling.
Okay.
So do I hear we're going to make an underground quote, I put dungeon in quotes because we haven't decided exactly what it is. An underground enclosed environment. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. And it could be, so we should talk about what kind of a thing it is. It could be like just an actual dungeon or a series of natural caves, or it could have once been an above ground facility that is just now buried a little bit under the ground. That happens in real life. It could happen in D&D too. Is anything jumping out to you guys as a good hook? Because I think it would be interesting to establish maybe if this, whatever this thing is, if it is been around for a while, it'd be interesting to establish how it was originally made. That might inform some of our choices about what we'll find in it.
Are we talking about what's in the tavern's the tavern's basement?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So is it going to be in the basement of a tavern? Is that how you get into it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to have to name the tavern.
Oh.
We can come back to it, but we're going to have to name the tavern before we're done.
Yeah, please, if you can write that down, that we need to name the tavern somewhere. So a thought that occurred to me: what if like the city that the tavern is in, that they're inside, is just like a city that at one point just built itself on top of another one, right? So like it wasn't even like the old city was in ruins; they just sort of like leveled off the top as much as possible and just built on top.
Are there parts of like Seattle or something where this happened?
I think this is a common, sort of common in some places. And I want to say I even saw like something like this in Kentucky. But yeah, so maybe there's just like the basement of everybody's house actually goes into.
Oh, neat.
Could go into one of these places.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of rumors in the town about like whose house is on top of what treasure.
Oh, that's a great one.
There's actually Istanbul. The Romans, when they were in Constantinople, they built these giant cisterns under the city, and then it got covered over and forgotten about. And then the city kind of the march of time continued, and then one day it was discovered that there were these giant Roman cisterns under the city. It was rediscovered when an archaeologist was talking to somebody who said they were catching fish in their basement.
Nice.
And so they go down to this guy's basement, and sure enough, there's this hole that goes down to these like beautiful like stone carved things, and it's like a giant room full of water and like carved gorgon heads and stuff. Yeah. It's just like it's a crazy place.
That's cool, but I'm sorry, we already decided this adventure is set in Kentucky. So.
Well, I was just saying, like that's an example of like ancient civilizations kind of coming into contact with the overlapping of spaces, and kind of like how even like a casual domestic space can transgress into the fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, actually. Yeah.
So I really love that idea, and I think we should just rip it off wholesale for one of the rooms. So I think so they go into the dungeon, they go down in the basement, and maybe the basement, like there is one of those cisterns, but then there's a hole kind of like through one of the cisterns that the party can swim through to get into sort of the rest of the dungeon. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And what if there's like frog people or like fish people down there that like they're like awakening from some kind of like old hibernation or something like that? That like the fresh oxygen from the surface world has stirred something ancient.
Well,
oh, sorry. Just getting a little excited.
I didn't think you would say that, but
no, that's good because one of the questions we should answer is what sort of thing is down there, and to like guide us as we choose the encounters. So one option on the table is an amphibian type of theme, fishy type of theme.
Yeah. So are we gonna build a water dungeon?
They could be like eyeless albino amphibians that can only sense you if you touch the water.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm like, I know I'm just jumping ahead, but
whatever we do, we need to make sure that playing this dungeon requires a total mastery of the underwater movement rules.
Yes.
Which
yeah.
Okay,
yeah, I was kind of thinking they could swim through, and then there's like skeletons, but that's cool too. We could do fish people.
Okay, let's just pause and ask ourselves a few basic questions before we get straight to the fish person skeleton.
What if they're telepathic and they lay eggs by invading your memories?
We have to go deeper.
All right, folks, we're done. I hope you've enjoyed this special dungeon episode. Okay. I just want to review a few things before we start. So we are charting out a dungeon that is a kind of buried. It's like an undercity, a partially intact undercity. It's under the ground and it is accessible at various points through people's like basements or just through basements and things like that, right? There's basements and cellars.
Yes.
So there might be a couple of entry and exit points into this dungeon through, basically different people's cellars.
Yeah.
What if we started by describing like the main building through which you would access this area? So here's like a beginning question: is it inhabited, and do people know there's a dungeon down here, or is this something that the PCs will have to root around and discover?
I think what I really like from what Kyle was saying is I like the thought that like something that they thought they paved over has awakened. So whether that's fish people, frog people, or shark people, something like that. Like there's something that is sort of like there's something that's changed recently. So there was an earthquake, or a magician cast the wrong spell, or someone delved too deep down in their basement, something like that. Like so they've awakened something new.
It's a very less.
I just wanted a bonus room.
Yeah.
Okay, carry on, Chris. Before we
I think so that's actually a really really interesting point. So like maybe it's like so everybody knows they're on top of another city, right? And so like everybody's basement actually is like kind of as expansive as they want it to be, right? But like it doesn't exactly like lead into the undercity, other than this one tavern. And this is sort of the discovery that everybody makes, because either something comes out or there's something that compels the adventurers to go in.
And we could possibly just leave it open to the GM as to how to introduce this. I mean, if it would be fun for the players, the GM could have the PCs be in the tavern when the thing bursts out of the floorboards or whatever it is. Yeah. Or the PCs could have heard about it or be directed by, some townspeople to go investigate in the aftermath of the earthquake or whatever it is. I don't think we need to spell that out too much.
I think for the purposes of like keeping it as a one shot, what I want to avoid is that there's like 50 different entrances that you can all go explore and pop in and up and out of and all that, because it'll just get too complicated. So I'd love it if there's just sort of one sole entrance to the main thing, but like there's evidence of it elsewhere.
What if the tavern owner is serving these fish that he's getting from his basement?
Okay.
And so like there are these weird like eyeless cave fish that he's selling.
Yeah.
And he's like serving them, like selling them to people, not like worshiping them.
Oh. Yeah. Like
maybe.
Yeah, he's just frying them up. Like he's beer battering them and frying them up for tavern goers.
Yeah.
And like, so you see like other patrons like eating these like weird fish. Mm-hmm. So like, it's a way of like telegraphing that like, this is an interesting local delicacy that we've run across here. I don't know that it fits my taste, but it's just like a way of like, you meet in a tavern and then you can talk about like, as you're kind of talking about the local color of like the people in there and like what kinds of dishes and drinks people are eating. Like that could be one of them. And kind of a clue. It's just like, how cool would it be? It's just like, you go down to the first room of the dungeon and immediately you see the living versions of these fish that you saw people eating. And you're like, oh.
I mean, you could even have one of the barkeep, like when you order food or something, he like, and he goes and like picks up a fishing rod and goes and marches downstairs.
Yes.
And then comes back up with a bunch of fish. Yeah, like just to kind of seed that idea.
What if the PCs eat some of this fish? What's like a little condition that can be applied to them?
What if they get like more sensitive to light?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like that.
They get almost like limited dark vision almost?
Yeah.
That's really good. I like that a lot. That like that suddenly like their eyes begin to adjust weirdly.
That's what you could do, because so the tavern itself, you could, when they walk in, it could just be darker than it should be.
Ooh, I like that.
Right, like make that a key kind of component of it. It's like it's there's too few candles or something like that, you
and
know?
it's lit by like strange smelling oil lamps. It's
Yeah.
oh yeah, just like this tavern owner is really just using every piece of the buffalo with this hole in his basement.
I mean, the times are hard. You know, the economy is what the economy is.
That's right.
This could even be like an outpost, like a trading post thing that's kind of like out in the middle of nowhere, kind of like the trading post in Hateful Eight. So like there already is this sense of like isolation. It's just like this trading post that's like out away from a city. It's like a day's ride by horse, just like kind of in the Rockies somewhere.
Yeah.
And so like you're maybe that you could say, oh, you can't leave because there's a blizzard. Like there's all kinds of reasons you could make people have to stay in this location and they can't go get help. And there is, so like maybe this guy just happened to pick building he dug his root cellar into this ancient city on this like old mound that was like covered over by the gods because of their unspeakable blasphemies. Throwing something out there.
I like that. So if we get away from having to be a full city, then it's just sort of like a creepy building.
Yeah.
You know, middle of nowhere. And then so that's easy enough to sort of drop in and have all sorts of reasons why you're there, and you can't leave because if you leave there's nothing else.
Yeah, that's
you.
Good. I like that too.
Okay.
GMs can just drop it into any travel sequence that they want to.
Okay.
All right, so we've got the PCs, we've got them in the tavern, we've got some creepy fish that they can eat, and maybe do we want to just describe the innkeeper? Just who are a couple of people the PCs will find in here? Just real brief sketches.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think you need to, in a place like this, have someone like just like a giant fat guy sort of in the corner who's just like eating as many fish as possible. Right? Like just kind of just
what
gross...
if it's a really really thin guy?
Oh. Like
what if like he just like he's just like has a pile of bones of like all these fish that he's eaten, but it just doesn't seem to actually like fill him up or something like that. Like have it go the other way around. And like again, it invests these fish with this kind of like he's compelled to do it even though he's drawing very little sustenance from it.
Interesting. Yeah, so there's like an addictive quality to it.
Yeah.
You could even make if we keep going with like the dark vision thing, you could make his eyes like totally white or something like as well. Like he's just
and maybe the
hypersensitive.
The innkeeper wears like weird like tinted spectacles or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So is everybody in this tavern just glaring at the PCs, or are they creepily welcoming?
I think they're suspicious travelers. It's like you wouldn't necessarily strike up a conversation with everybody, especially if you were tired and on the road.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
And so we probably don't need to stat it out, but there should definitely be there should maybe be another couple of like hireable adventurer types or in the area too. So the GM could just seed the tavern with a little bit of backup if the PCs need it.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, like, who would they be? People that hang out there, or they be also other travelers?
I think at least one or two should be other travelers that are, just on their own errands and also stuck here for the night or the week or whatever it is.
They're halfling mercenaries.
Yeah.
So you think like they're halfling soldiers on their way to go back home after like some kind of weird soldier of fortune outing. So, but you would be led to like immediately underestimate them and not to expect too much help. Yeah. But you might be in a situation where you have to realize it's like, oh, thank God the halfling mercenaries are here.
Yeah. I like it. So what I like about the Thin Man, so it sounds like we have the Thin Man and we have the innkeeper, and then some halfling mercenaries. Like who else would be there's like the fish. That's probably enough, honestly, right? Between that and then all the other characters.
Yeah, we don't want it to be too populous if it's out here in the middle of nowhere.
What if there's conspicuously luggage set up by like one of the seats or like one of the beds or rooms or something like that, for somebody who is not present?
Would that just be a hook for the GM, or
it's just like something maybe he went out to the outhouse. Oh, that would be like maybe the outhouse is another pit. The latrine also broke down. It's just like, he went out to go take a dump, and he hasn't come back. He must have really ate something that disagreed with him.
With that though, that luggage should be full of like swimming gear, like in deep sea diving gear,
sure,
and stuff, right? So it's someone who like maybe has heard about something, right? Because the whole idea, the setup here, right, is we dearly want them to go swim into that cistern because there's going to be something else on the other side.
Or like, potions. Maybe it's like a traveling alchemist peddling his wares, and he happens to have like a lot of potions of like water breathing and low light vision and like just useful things if you choose to pillage this poor pooper.
Yeah, like equipment for underground exploration, I think would be pretty fun.
Okay.
And they're maybe unlikely to root through his stuff, but someone will. So.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe he could be like a draugr, like a whatever they are, like one of those dark elves or dark dwarfs from the Underdark or something like that. A draugr, something like that. Like somebody who, if you ever met him, he's going to be kind of curmudgeonly and not super helpful and really angry if you actually took his stuff. But like some reason for why he would have underground stuff with him.
Yeah. What if he... Okay, so I like this. So you find his luggage, and then maybe you find him later on in the dungeon.
Yeah, we'd have to figure out why he's down there without his luggage. But I think it would be cool to hint at an NPC you can meet up with later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so we should write some of this down then. So for listeners, we have a shared document that we're using for this, and this is mostly so later on we can look at it, and we'll probably end up sharing this somewhere for those that want to, I guess, read ahead before we play it.
Yeah, I can write some of this down while you guys maybe continue the discussion. I'll be listening.
Yeah.
Am I dominating the design talk too much? I can cool it a little bit.
No, I don't think so.
Fine,
I would tell you if you were.
Okay,
Don't worry.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no, this is good. It's collaborative. I wrote down, so I'm a little sad that if we're getting away from the city, because I wrote down the name of Under the Undercity, which I just feel like has like a really good feel to it for the dungeon name.
Yeah. We can move it to a city.
It doesn't... I just needed to get that out there because it's just been staring me in the face.
Well, let's let that simmer for a bit and see.
Can we change it? Can we do beneath the Undercity?
Beneath the Undercity.
For beneath the sub basement.
Under the beneath the city.
Above the sub level of the Undercity. Yeah.
Just above the core of the earth.
Approximately.
Chris or I will write some of the stuff up, but I would like to get into like how the PCs actually get into the dungeon, and I don't know if we need to like chart out a plot exactly that gets them down there. I think if we come up with like a few hooks, that would be adequate, and each GM can just see what will lure their PCs down there. But you guys have been talking about like that the entrance is like by swimming through a cistern. That seems a bit much to me. In that, I think it would be hard to get a party of D&D adventurers to like submerge, like dive into water. Like I'm wondering, to like dive into water at the promise of something under. Like, would it work better that like down in the basement there's like a subterranean stream cutting through the basement or something like that? Or tell me more about the cistern idea.
The cistern in Istanbul had like 20 feet of water in the bottom of it, but it was like 100 feet tall. So it's like this. It could, and that could be like a giant like hub gallery area.
Yeah.
So you could have paths branching out from there. And maybe that's under the basement, and then the outhouse is over like a secret like one-way door or something that you can see it from the cistern room, but it's only openable if you go down like the narrow chute that has opened up underneath the outhouse.
No one's gonna do that. But it's a nice Easter egg.
I don't know. I'm just throwing it like the idea. I like the idea of like multiple entrances to it and like a reason to get through there. Like a reason to flush yourself down down the latrine.
So I guess the way that I was conceptualizing this is like you walk down kind of a rickety step of stairs into the basement, and the basement is just sort of an open water when you get down those steps for whatever reason. And I was envisioning so there's obviously fish swimming around in there. And so, but then the players, like if they do any amount of investigating, they notice that there's sort of like a hole in the wall or something like that. Or there's something that they could fit through if they wanted to. But Andy, you bring up a really good point. Every D&D party ever is going to be like, I'm not going in that water.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think so Kyle, what you're saying makes more sense and actually it's probably more thematic is you come down and there's the cistern is just this 20 foot in diameter hole. And if you look down there, you can see that 50 or 75 feet down is like water with fish floating in there. And if you actually go down there or look, you can see that there's paths sort of going off in different directions.
Maybe there's
just above the water line.
There's some faint like bioluminescent algae or something that illuminates the water down there.
Yeah, I think like the thing that the only trick that the setup really needs to do is to make the players super curious about what's down there.
Yeah.
And then once they look down there, you can make it very obvious. It's like, oh, well, on the side of the cistern, there's a hole or this, that, or the other.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. So, hey, now that we're kind of starting to describe the first room in the dungeon, is now a good time to talk about what kind of random or wandering encounters the PCs can bump into down here? And maybe we don't have to list them all out now, but I want to put that Duergar, how do you pronounce that Duergar Explorer or something as an NPC that if you're rolling for random encounters you could bump into. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, I love that idea that instead of the Duergar kind of being a prisoner or something, it is he or she is also trying to maybe it's like this surly Calamity Jane type of character, just like this tiny buff bearded lady who's just I need to go get back to all my cool potions to sell.
Yeah, so
I love that being on the random tables.
Maybe they've gone down there and whatever they use to get down there, they don't have the thing that helps them get back out. Right, so they drank a potion of slow falling or drink a potion that lets them breathe underwater, which allowed them to get to some place, but then they didn't bring one back to get back.
Or they lost it in some kind of altercation with a subterranean beast.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I've put the Duergar, and again, I've never pronounced that word correctly. So
someone who's listening to this is just screaming into their, their
don't rage tweet. If you have to rage tweet someone, tweet it, Chris.
Oh yeah,
it's doo-doo man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please tweet at me. I don't check Twitter. So.
What type of creatures might we call the default the default monster or the default enemy? Is it some sort of a fish person? Is it a canonical D&D creature and again, sorry for pronunciation. I've only been playing for 35 years. I should know this, but the Kuo Toa, whatever those fish dudes are. Do either of you guys have a cool slightly aquatic themed creature that doesn't get enough love in D&D in general?
Well, the slods are pretty cool, but the lore is pretty deep on them too.
So slods, those are creepy salamander guys. Is that?
Yeah, and they're from the chaos dimension, and they're kind of they're almost like the xenomorphs from the Aliens franchise. Mm-hmm. So they can, if they bite you, you can turn into one of them. That might be a lot for a first level encounter.
Yeah, that's a lot. I think we want to stick more with like the creepy fish-looking humanoid thing.
All right. So, like when we were talking creepy fish humanoids, I keep thinking of like deep ones from like the Lovecraft mythology.
Yeah.
Like those things that live in Innsmouth or whatever. So, I'm sure there's a D&D thing that it might just be the Kuo-toa. Those might be the D&D.
I think that's probably them.
I'm looking at images of both of them. So the deep ones are a little bit more styled like the Fishman from that movie that won all the awards.
Yes,
with the Guillermo del Toro one.
Which I cannot remember. The Shape of Water, and then the Kuo-toas look a little bit more like the ones from Castlevania that jump out of the water.
Okay.
Yes.
Just to kind of maybe give us a bit of a framework. So I think it would be right. So they want to the players want to go down there. It might be nice if there's some sort of again going back to that Pathfinder. First intro adventure, have some sort of enemy that's like the boss of the dungeon, if you will, or so that might help us sort of come up with our ideas for what the individual encounters are going to be.
So what's the end game of this new doom that has awakened to the world?
It could stand alone. You go down there and you kill the lizard man, necromancer, or whatever, and then that's it. Or, the GM could spin that out into a bigger campaign if they want to, the lizard man be working for something more sinister, which it certainly is, being a lizard man necromancer. But,
I like the lizard man wizard, lizard man necromancer angle. I think that's again, it's kind of a classic, trope, but I think it'd be pretty fun to get to sort of the final room and there's a throne and a lizard man necromancer. Ready to face off.
All right, so let's hear some other ideas, though. I don't want to just go with our first idea because I blurted out the words lizard man and necromancer.
What if it's something just gigantic? You get to the final room and it's an underground ocean and there's a whale in there that's a necromancer.
Oh, I love that idea. It could be. Yeah, it's like a whale covered in psychic lampreys or something like that.
Yeah.
This whale has been singing a lullaby that has kept this all these people asleep or something for a long time. But now it's finally being overwhelmed, which is kind of why they're clawing their way up through this inn's basement.
The only problem is we can't have it be something that a party of level ones couldn't deal with in some capacity.
Yeah. Okay.
So if it's a whale or something, I personally will never read the underwater movement rules. I put my foot down, and I can't in good conscience ask anyone else to do that. So it has to be some. See, it has to be something that if it's a whale or something, there needs to be some way that the PCs can interact with it. If it's non-standard.
What if it's like a luck dragon like Falcor from a big furry happy Muppet dragon that's kind of being skewered by the fish people or something like that. What?
You just it's Falcor, man. Come on.
Listen. What happened to that horse in that quicksand is
goodness.
Way worse than what I described.
You are not lying there.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, it's true.
I think damseling some kind of amazing friendly Muppet beast is definitely the way to. And that could be another thing that draws them in. Maybe you could have any kind of magical druid class characters or elves that are attuned to the songs of mystical beasts could recognize something is in great pain that oughtn't to be down there.
Okay, so I like that. So the other option is to appeal to their sense of greed, and there's a big pile of treasure.
Yeah, sure.
At the end, but So I'm not sold on Falcor as being the damsel in this situation because that just hurts. But something like that's an interesting idea. I think what I'm personally looking for, and I could be wrong, right? Just overrule me, is like some sort of like clear and present danger or clear and present treasure for them to get. And it's nice if it's sort of a character that the GM can play. Right, like so the psychic lampreys, for example, like that's a little harder to do, but like a giant whale lich is different than that. And again, not a whale, but like maybe it's a giant lizard or just a normal, like a slightly bigger fish.
It can't. And I think we should be careful. It can't be anything that's got like too complicated of a backstory. If we're really talking about like 6 rooms and 2 or 3 hours of play, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're going to go down.
We could just give the fish people jewelry. Like the more of them that you kill, the richer you get.
Yeah.
And then also Falcor can be pinned to a wall like a Christ figure.
Well, if you let him down, then you get to ride him.
There you go.
just to get like my mind wrapped around the dungeon itself. And sorry, Andy. I know we're like you just wanted some encounters.
I just wanted to know how many skeletons they have to fight, and now we're talking about about Falcor.
Okay. So they're gonna go down there because of the fish situation up above. Right, so like that gets them in there, but what keeps them exploring down there, other than just their natural sense of curiosity? To me, like if there's some sort of rumor of treasure they have, or like maybe the fish have stopped coming out, or something like that. Like when they go down there and like there's no more fish.
I think you could almost present a couple options to the GM, and if we just stick with kind of the standbys, like you say, the supply of magic fish has dried up. I'll pay you money to go down there and figure out what's going on. Or, there's always somebody was kidnapped, something came up out of there and grabbed one of a person, and they're down there and go get them out. There's the like, fishmen keep coming out of my basement. I'll give you 10 gold pieces for every fishman, head that you bring back. As long as we create an environment where a couple of different things could be plausibly motivating the PCs, I'm not too worried about, giving them a complicated hook, I guess.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. I guess what's the conclusion of the one shot then? They've killed enough fishmen that they have enough money to buy the cool sword, or like
Save Falcor, Chris.
Yeah. They can save Falcor.
So they've saved the NPC. Could be maybe the NPC or the Falcor. They've maybe we could identify a main mission like that just to indicate, okay, you're done if you want to be done.
I think
I don't know. Those are pretty generic examples that of plots that I just listed for you.
No, I think they're pretty good. I mean, like, I think the hook of there is someone down there, you are heroes, go get them is pretty good. And also, if you kill a bunch of fish people, I'll give you gold is kind of a nice side plot to that. And then once they're down there, then they could discover there's a secret room with Falcor locked up.
Yeah, there's also, another old standby is, last week so-and-so went down in there and came back out with a ton of loot, and he says there's a lot more in there, but it's way too dangerous. He's done. So all of those things could be true, the PCs could be down there trying to rescue someone and gathering, fishman heads and keeping their eyes out for this treasure that they heard about. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I like that. Like, so I guess, yeah, to me as the GM, and this is totally just my style of GMing, like I want to have like what's the critical path for the players, like, and have that decision of like, to me it'll be satisfying if it concludes, roughly in this way, or like they go down this path, right? So like, I kind of want to define that if we can, like, and I'm open to not, right? If that's sort of the decision we want.
Yeah, that's an interesting discussion I think we can even have about this, because another approach to this kind of thing is like, look, it's just like a treasure-filled hole in the ground.
Yeah, that's true.
Explore it if you want, and explore as much of it. Explore until you're done exploring, or until the danger starts outweighing the benefits, and then you, the players, tell me when you're done.
Yeah.
But that said, I think we should have like a critical path for GMs that prefer that. Yeah, what do you guys think? What would motivate your current group of players to go down in there?
My group likes to save things. They like to save people and help people that are in trouble. So yeah, I think psychic pleas for help from a skewered dragon is where I would go with it. But also, I do think that I think it really depends on how you introduce it too. It's if you just say like, oh. But the problem with the problem that we're running into with our tavern setup is not that you find yourself at a dungeon because you're trying to save so and so. It is like you're at this weird dungeon. You discover that there's a weird dungeon down here. Now go down in it. That's where the adventure is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there does need to be something beckoning. So I think some kind of like pile of gold. Ooh, yeah, like a gold pile mimic or something. Like they get down there, they see like this giant pile of gold down there in the middle. Of this like island or bridge or something in the middle of this thing, and they're like, now it's a monster. Oh no.
That's good. We should have that be one of the random encounters as a room, a treasure mimic.
Okay, well, hey, in the interest of just keeping us from taking forever on this.
Yeah.
We're about halfway through the time we kind of allotted ourselves to do this dungeon.
Okay.
So let's just make some executive calls on on some of these questions, and let's start fleshing out some rooms.
Okay. So here's my executive decision. Someone can overrule me if they want. The tavern keeper has one of his worker who's with him is this Durgar explorer person. So that person helps him out in the tavern, and maybe the fish stopped coming one day, and so he went down there, and he hasn't been seen since. And it's been a couple days. The thin man is hungry, he's insatiable. He will not leave. So he is saying if you go down there and you can find him, I'll give you whatever, 100 gold, 10,000 gold pieces, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Sure, you're right.
Yeah. So then they go down there, and then they have to find this, and then there's also kind of antagonistic, fish people, whatever.
I like it.
There. Yeah, and I think then
go down there, find my coworker, I'll pay you.
Yeah, go down there, find my coworker, I'll pay you, and then once they're down there, then it's also very clear it's not just fish people. Maybe there's some other stuff going on.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
I think I like it too. And then we can decide as we go through is the dude just lying wounded in a room somewhere, or has he been, captured by something creepy? Yeah. We'll figure that out as we flesh out the rooms. So, okay. So let's talk. We've already discussed a little bit this main room, but let's call it, the entry room, the main cistern room.
Okay.
Let's just describe it, and how many exits are out of this room, and what do they look like? And what's in this room besides just the entry to the rest of the dungeon? Anything?
I think there's got to be some kind of landing that's above water.
Okay.
And then maybe that connects to two passageways. So there's 3 exits to this room. 2 of them are dry, and then one of them you have to go through the water to go through.
Is there a boat or a raft or something like that down here for navigating around, or no? Was there one and the Durgar took it?
Yeah. Maybe there is some kind of raft that's down there that the Durgar was using, but it's been abandoned.
Is the main way that people move around the dungeon going to be via waterways, or for the most part are they walking on solid ground?
I think walking on solid ground. I think it should feel risky to get into the water. So that's why only there's 3 exits, and only one of them is you have to mess with the water. So it'll give you something to circle back to after you check the other directions.
Yeah, I like that. So is there any danger in this room? Or is its purpose to serve as just a creepy welcome to the dungeon?
Yeah, I don't think there's any danger other than like maybe there's the chance of, falling, like slipping and falling into the
Yeah,
water
this
or
is
something
like
like
a
that.
physical challenge thing. This
Yeah.
is like a
Okay.
roll strength to slide down the rope that
hmm
is there.
I was
Oh,
again, my thought is like you again, you're going down the steps and then you get down there and then there's sort of a big pit, right, that fills the basement and that goes down 50 feet before there's water.
Yeah,
Is that how you're envisioning it?
that sounds what
Okay.
I was thinking. Yes.
Andy, does that jive with what you're thinking, or are
I'll
you
be
thinking something
totally
else?
honest with you guys. I have only a very vague sense of what this room looks like.
Okay.
But you guys seem to have a good mental map
Yeah,
of this. So,
I think like
it's a tall cube room,
hmm
and like the bottom several it's filled with deep water, but it has like
okay,
a bridge connecting across the middle
okay,
that goes to two doors. So like there's a door east and west connected by a causeway, and then there's a
uh
door to the south in the middle of the room
water.
that
Okay,
that's
I've
underwater.
got it. Okay, that helps. Yeah.
There we go.
this is
What
great. This is
is
great because I'm thinking of
what
something
is
like totally different. And like I just want to like okay.
so? What can the PCs?
Yeah.
Can we have it so that with a little bit of hunting around, they learn something about this environment, like
hmm
just like a tantalizing bit of lore or a suggestion about the place that they are? I mean, so they're down there. They don't know there was like a city here,
hmm
2,000 years
Oh,
ago or whatever. So what
uh,
what can they learn by looking around in the environment?
like carved uh, uh, carved
Frescoes,
frescoes or
murals.
not frescoes. Yeah, carved murals or
hmm
mosaics. Yeah, mosaics of fish people.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think that would be good.
all right, that's good. So here's a question
Maybe
for the
fish people, but like with other figures like bowing to them or something.
Yeah, humans like bringing them like baby sacrifices.
Well, not that.
Babies.
so
Like
so
teenagers.
So the fish. So this was a human city, all right? A human city, or was it a fishman city?
I think it
Because
was
it's
a
a fishman
fishman
city.
city.
We have
hmm
like we can do some interesting things maybe with like the architecture, like how would the fishman
I
build
think
the
it's
city?
like a fishman temple.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
it's
that's a good
like
one.
it's not even like, we don't even have to say that there's a whole city here. It's just like there's a group of weird fishmen that have been like sleeping in some kind of like hibernation goo for a while.
All right, so we have three exits from this room. Two are kind of land exits, and one of them is the more intimidating one that requires getting into the water. Shall we? Are we ready to talk about one of the adjacent rooms?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say they take the left entrance. Well, it's one of the ones along the causeway, so one of the solid ground ones. So do they immediately come into another room, or do they travel for a while through some sort of a tunnel or a passageway?
I think it'd be more interesting if they travel for some ways and there's some amount of like twisting or a turn so they can't necessarily see directly down the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe it's 100 feet or so,
Okay.
and they're like it ends at a T, right? A
Is
T or
Do you guys picture this as like a sort of symmetrical facility, or is going left going to be a really different experience than going right, like architecturally?
oh, I think the so if we were thinking like fish people built this. Um, I'm thinking that like everything is very curved. So all the
Okay.
hallways, like it's almost like kind of like a perfect circle, right? Because like they can both kind of slither along or they can walk along like that, and they also need sort of water to run through
Yeah,
as
maybe
well.
they can like scoot around like penguins on their bellies or
Yeah,
something like
Hmm.
that
yeah, they can do that.
on the
Yeah,
slick floors.
again,
Okay.
Castlevania, but like yeah, but I mean, I think like maybe it's like it's astonishingly a perfect circle. Yeah, like anyone who
Okay.
investigates it would be like, this is amazing. How did they do this?
Okay. So when they reach the next major, so first of all, if there's any sort of encounter in the hallway, we should discuss about that in the
hmm
passageway. Or if not, let's talk about what they find at the end of the passageway. So what does this passageway look like? It's smooth and curvy,
hmm
right? Creepily so. There's like like what, like an inch of water on the ground, or is that
Mhm.
what you guys are talking? So like a real.
Yeah.
So what's on the walls? Is it is it more murals and paintings or whatever like that? Are there weird statues in here?
Hmm.
Ooh, yeah, it should be a bunch of fish people, like statues of fish people, like crossing spears over between each other,
Oh, I
or
like
like
that.
tridents and
So the
stuff like
PCs
that.
are going like underneath the tridents, kind of.
Yeah, they have to walk between the tridents.
Okay.
Okay, so it's like a perfect sphere, and then there's statues sort of on either side.
Yeah,
Try to. Um, what I would like, so like if we were gonna go with they can kind of slither around, it might be kind of interesting to have artwork both at eye level and then also at like slither level
Yeah, I like
too
that.
on the walls, like just as another kind of architectural detail. So like yeah, if you kind of duck down like the same, maybe there's like some carvings and stuff along the whole wall behind, like on either side, even of the statues going along the full length. But then there's a second set lower down.
And Chris, are you going to write a set of rules for slithering movement? Like if the PCs themselves decide that they want to slither through the level? Okay.
Yeah, you'll be able to buy my book, Slithering and Sliding.
I, I would like there to be some kind of danger in this passageway, especially since it's a really long one, and with those statues, like kind of create some interesting kind of terrain. I think so. It doesn't have to be like a big fight, but like
Hmm.
maybe just like a smallish like some kind of a predator type of beast
Hmm.
in here that's just
Hmm.
like lives down here. Like, feel free to disagree, but
No, I had another thought, but I'll save that for just a little bit later. I mean, I
yeah,
like something like this, like a gelatinous cube, something like that. Like
yeah.
would
There's
be
like slimes are always, slimes and jellies and whatnot are always a good option.
maybe
Um,
just the blue slime from Dragon Warrior would be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh,
You can
what
befriend
about
it or kill it. It's up to you.
those weird tongues from Half-Life 2 that like reach down and like pull you up into the ceiling?
Oh
Oh,
yeah, those are weird.
Yeah, so like, and that could be some kind of like slime or like ceiling leech or something like that. So
I
yeah.
like that.
it's like hiding up in these like trident vaulted ceilings,
Hmm.
and but also like it's dangerous because somebody could get grabbed and engulfed, but there's still time to like get the person, like cut the person free before they're
Yeah.
dragged into like this like biting mouth at the top of the
Yeah, and
ceiling.
maybe there. I really like that, by the way. Let's just straight up rip that idea out of Half-Life. I like, and like let's again level one. So these aren't like insta kill creatures, and
Right.
maybe they aren't evolved to like really go after human sized prey exactly, but enough
Hmm.
to like chomp on someone's head if they can pull them up. And then maybe once the PCs encounter like one of them, they get an advantage on spotting other ones. You know how like in Half Life you can, if you learn that
Yeah.
the hanging tendrils mean don't go touch the tendril. I
Yeah.
guess.
Don't go do that.
I mean, most of us knew that before we touched it, but
Yeah.
okay. So we'll figure out some kind of a creature, but like basically something that mimics the behavior of the Half Life thing is some sort of it's like leached up on the ceiling, and it extends some sort of appendage down to
Okay.
grab and pull you up if you can. Got that,
Yes.
Chris? You're writing this down, so I'm speaking for your benefit here. Does that sound reasonable?
I like that you think I'm writing it down.
Okay, I've been like half-heartedly typing, but mostly I've kind of resigned myself to just typing the stuff up as I listen to this after the fact,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, no, I
otherwise you're
like
going to
that.
hear keyboard taps as we.
Okay. Um,
Okay, so the PCs have survived the weird like tongue leeches or whatever we call them, and so what do they find at the end of this tunnel? First of all, is it an open entrance into the next chamber, or is it closed?
ooh.
And what kind of, if it's closed, what kind of like door would a fish person facility have? What would a door look like?
Doggy door. They slide
maybe
through it.
Yeah, the slither door, and then
That's like that's an interesting idea. We obviously don't want to make it impossible for the PCs to get through, but like if these things were designing a facility for them to move through. And maybe they had human servants, so they had to accommodate like the human that served them. But like it would mostly be for their convenience, right?
Yeah.
So maybe the PCs do have to like get down on their stomachs and slither through a barely big enough opening. I don't know.
Yeah, I love that idea because you really have to stick your neck out to do that. There's no way to go through a doggy door with your with your halberd at the ready.
Yeah.
So that's when you would say like, oh, you have a familiar, send him through.
Yeah.
Please, like that.
Please do
that's
that. Yeah.
Or a stealth roll for your gnome or something like that. Like you're going to look around for somebody besides the paladin or the barbarian to solve this door puzzle.
Yeah.
What do you think, Chris? You look a little skeptical.
No, I'm thinking through, right, like just the logistics of it. So it's almost you have I'm thinking like a door that has like a door inset in it, and maybe that like the full door is locked, right? So like if you have a rogue, they might be able to pick a lock to get through, but the slither door that's at the bottom, that one is unlocked. It's very obvious there's a second hinge on that. So it's like your path of least resistance is to just go under, but if you have thieves' tools and you're prepared as a party, you could maybe open that up too.
I like that a lot. Yeah. Okay, let's do that. Okay. So then what do they find when they either slither through or they like pick their way through the door?
Ooh, that's got to be like the bedroom. There's like a bunch of fish people that are still hibernating.
Okay.
But like there's like some pods that have been like, or egg sacs or whatever that have been popped.
Yes.
So and you can, maybe that like corresponds to the exact number that are still alive in the cave or something.
Okay. Yeah.
Would they be?
But then there's definitely one there's got to be at least one that's in there and like ready to ready to jump out at you.
Yeah.
Would it be egg sacs or like clamshells?
Yeah, I think, I love that. Like, just like these creepy, like undulating oysters or something like that. Yeah, like some kind of like, blasphemous sea creature that has been manipulated into keeping these fish people alive.
Chris, did you describe?
What did I just accidentally do?
I mean, this is going way back, but I could swear there is some sort of enemy in like G.I. Joe that is exactly that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No,
I swear there is, and I actually remember with more confidence than I'm letting on right now because I don't want to reveal how much I remember exactly about G.I. Joe from back in the day. But
I really want to talk. I want to stop everything and talk a lot about this. But I don't know what you're talking about, but I really want to hear about it.
It will be an Easter egg for those Joes who are playing.
Joe!
So there's a whole bunch of these, or like a dozen of these, and like 6 of them are open?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, and one of them is in here, or maybe one of them is emerging as the PCs like arrive. It's a little cheesy sometimes to do like scripted scenes like that, but maybe if the PCs mess around with it, one of them opens.
Maybe there's one person that's in there that is like doing the ritual to like unclamp another one. So if you stop him in time, if you interrupt it in time, like you can keep there from being more people to deal with.
Another thought: what if these are like clamshell type things? I mean, what if there's like pearls or treasure? What if the PCs have some motivation to like mess around with these things a little bit?
I like that.
Like they went into their hibernating sleep with whatever valuables they wanted to, or maybe a part of the process is the pearls created.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just a byproduct of whatever I don't know.
I
can't think of something that's not. I mean, it's starting to get gross sounding to me, but like, what I guess what I'm looking for is how can we encourage the PCs to do something stupid, which is like mess around with like the hibernation chambers or the hibernation pods.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think if there is like a black pearl or something like that the fish people are like hunched around in the fetal position while they're sleeping inside of these things.
Maybe the biology of it is to get the clamshells to actually close around them, they have to start a pearl in there.
Yeah.
So like the pearl is growing as it's also keeping them hibernated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it opens up, and however long they've been under is how big the pearl gets.
Yeah, and maybe these oysters are translucent, so you can you see the pearls from the open chambers, but you can also like see through that. Like, oh man, if we open all these dudes, we could make off with a lot of giant weird gunk pearls.
Yeah. Okay. That's maybe the most out there, too complicated idea we have, but let's keep it for now.
Okay,
keeping it.
We'll find some way to make this workable. Yeah. I mean, should they have one encounter with like one roaming fishman who's in there, either trying to wake up other dudes or just like he's the maintenance guy and he's shuffling through?
He's just having a smoke. Yeah, right. He's in there. I think we can move on. There's one guy in there, and then let's.
Okay.
I've written down the Kuatoa priest. So.
Okay. Sure. Yep.
There we go.
We'll leave that there. Okay, so that's like the bedroom area, the bedroom barracks. Is there anything off of this room, or is this sort of a dead end?
Let's have there be something off of this room.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be the larder.
Oh.
So you got the bedroom, and as soon as people wake up, they go over to the larder, which is just full of human skeletons.
Okay.
Definitely haunted human skeletons.
That could work, yeah.
That form a hyperskeleton when you walk in there.
Okay. Well.
Type
is the skeleton
hyperskeleton.
Okay, so do we want to have a room full of human skeletons? Or, I've lost track of when we're joking and when we're being serious.
Yeah, well, I think the hyperskeleton was the joke. But yeah, taking a step back, I mean, I think, the larder is probably full of bones and stuff. And then on further investigation, it's whatever kind of races the party is.
Okay, maybe. So is there a natural, scavenger in here? Or an undead? Or nothing? And maybe if these things don't have the same, material values that humans do, there's, just treasure and ancient, really rusted old equipment or junk like that they just discarded in here? What else is in here besides the bones?
I like that. I mean, there could be a skeleton in here. And we could call it a hyperskeleton, but maybe, they did kill one necromancer who had a trick up its sleeves or something like that, and so out of all that there's a skeleton that can emerge.
Yeah, and what if it's an undead being that animates a skeleton using the skeleton pieces nearby, but it's not it's like a regular skeleton, but it looks all wonky, and the pieces. It's not like a pristine human skeleton, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I like it. Let's not try to come up with a reason why. I just like that idea a lot. It's just so it's something that builds itself out of all the other little bones.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
A hyperskeleton, if you will.
Okay, I'm going to write down hyperskeleton just for
you.
Yeah, we surrender. Hyperskeleton it is. All right. Yeah. Skeleton, hyper. It's in your monster.
Yeah.
Okay, and this larder would not really have other entrances or exits. It's just a little one-off room on the side, right?
Yeah. So rusted equipment. I like that idea. So they could pick up anything they wanted, but it'd be a -1 of it.
There's some old junk. Yeah, old junk that's poor quality equipment. And then maybe if they spend a lot of time hunting through, there's one or two nice, things, magic things or something that would have survived without rusting and decaying.
Yeah, spell components. Maybe there's spell components in there, or what? Isn't there some kind of weird potions that let you eat anything? Sorry, it could just be a condiment, that you put on something that allows you to devour whatever you put in your mouth.
Well, that actually.
Do you
That
not
actually
like
makes me
that
think.
idea?
What is
For some reason,
what
I
is
don't.
like what is a magic item that would have no like it's not a +1 weapon or whatever. What is a magic item that like someone might have been wearing for like their mundane use
Mm-hmm.
when they were killed? So it's not a weapon or armor. Like what's the thing?
Two ideas. So maybe one is something that will like disguise you as a Kuatoa.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that like so someone was trying to get in, and like that and got found out. Or the other one could be, like a potion or something that allows you to breathe underwater. So like a magic snorkel.
Okay.
Either of those ideas stick out to you?
What about like a circlet or earrings that record your memories or something like that?
I do
Oh,
like
Like
the
you
idea
could,
of something a little weird that's like not connected. Like that would
okay.
have been worn by someone on the surface who was then like kidnapped or something like that.
yeah.
Hmm.
Like so they weren't it's not going to help the PCs in a direct way in this adventure.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like a cool thing to get. I don't know. I still like the condiment that lets you eat anything, but I was just thinking it would be cool if there was like some kind of weird glimpse you could get of like the last moments of this person's life
Mhm.
before they ended up in this room. To like you could get some vision of this society in its full like grotesque people eating glory.
Mhm. It's like
Uh,
picking up like a cassette tape.
yeah, it's
Well,
yeah.
one of those audio logs.
Yeah, an audio log.
That could be an element of like the spirit or the ghost that is in this room, right?
There
I
you
mean,
go.
you guys in the movie Prometheus how like they cheesily provide like exposition by having like holograms
Yeah.
show like the last minutes of the creatures that were in the room. You guys, have you seen that movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
maybe not quite that on the nose, but like maybe while they're in there, you hear echoes or voices, associated with the final days of the people that were in here. I don't know.
Ooh.
Well, no, I like that, like some kind of magical amulet that projects illusions, like illusions based on memories or something like that. Because like PCs could use that for trickery stuff, but like the last recorded image of it is like the last few moments
Oh.
of so like it's something that you could, once you identify it, you could use for other illusion magic, but it is something that has like a pre-recorded voicemail on it.
It's making me think like what if it's an amulet that sort of just shows you like a keepsake sort of amulet, so it shows you like a picture or some sort of memory like that. So it's not something you can necessarily, unless you're more powerful than any of these characters would be, it's not something you could kind of like redo a bunch of times, sort of like a fantasy live photo. Yeah, so maybe they pick it up and it's like you get a vision of like someone has recorded a vision of their family or something like that, and it's like
Yeah, maybe, and then they could maybe decide to sell it, to hawk it for money, or find that family and say like, "Hey, we found your family heirloom.
Okay.
Your great grandfather was eaten by fish.
Yeah.
Mystery solved. That'll be $40."
I like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So hey, so thinking back, so we've been following like the left hand or the right, one of the two side entrances. Like, thinking about this, and the PCs at this point have reached the end of this branch of the facility. Is that right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So if they go and do the mirror side of this, are they going to get something similar? And the main like heart of the facility is through that passageway that required going in the water. Is that like, I'm just thinking about the facility as a whole here.
Oh.
I think the waterway definitely leads to a Scrooge McDuck vault full of treasure.
Okay.
That is cursed in some way.
Is that like the heart of the facility where like the fish people, like, the main part of the facility then?
Yeah, I
Sounds
think
like,
so. I think
oh, you do? Okay.
that's what they were up to, is like just acquiring material wealth for whatever, and maybe they're shoveling it into some kind of like furnace for their god or something. I don't know. I'm
What
just
if it's
thinking why
okay?
they would need that much money. Go ahead.
What if the right path sort of loops up and sort of above whatever that underwater path is? And
Oh,
so that's full of treasure, and it turns out like that they've just been like there's in the thing that's above it, there's going to be some sort of shrine, and they're just like feeding gold and whatever into it, and then it just fills up that chamber
interesting.
below.
I kind of like that, and I do like. We'll have to. I do like not forgetting that we should have 3 dimensions to this dungeon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let's return and go down that other path.
So we could do it symmetrical. Another thought that I had with the kind of circular slither tunnels is like almost doing a slide, right? Like I think it'd just be a fun sort of encounter, acrobatic encounter, to have it be a slide that actually kind of twists and turns and stuff, almost like a Mario 64 style slide. I'm thinking so they could very gently make their way, but they're most likely going to fall and have to like kind of do a couple of challenges to avoid.
Interesting. So,
Yeah.
So this one, it goes down then.
Yeah, so the 3D space in my head is getting a little complicated, but that would be that's a thought that I had.
Okay.
Kind of a fun.
I like that idea. Like, yeah, dex roll, or you go down the water slide. You're going down Crocodile Mile if you roll too low on this dex save.
I like it too, and someone will go down there, and then it has to be big enough that then they go out of sight, and the rest of the party has to figure out how they're going to follow.
Yes, absolutely.
And then, maybe it empties out into like the blacksmith shop or the blacksmith area where they are building their weapons of war for their assault upon the surface world.
Something else. So here's something else we could consider too. If this was like kind of near a city in ancient times or whatever, we could also have the PCs bust into another basement or something like that. Maybe one that has mostly collapsed and is not real accessible anymore from the surface, but just to remind them, oh yeah, this was like a city under, I don't know.
Ooh, yeah, no, I like that.
So let's just set that aside in the idea box for now, and let's talk about what happens when we go the other side passage. Mm-hmm. So do we want this to be a big slide? Are we okay with it not being symmetrical with the other side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's have it. It'll be a slide. It's like a gentle slope, maybe, but like once you start sliding, it's really hard to stop. Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it takes you down for. Is it pretty long? Does it spiral around? What do you want?
Yeah, maybe it spirals and couple 100 feet long, so like enough to get a thrill out of it. and
then does it like do you go sailing out 10 feet above a water cistern, a pool of water, or
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, I think it lands directly into water, I think.
Okay. So then what's first of all, I don't imagine we can really have any other sort of encounters in the slide, right? Because they're slide, we don't want to disrupt that fun.
Mm-hmm.
So what's this room like that they get dropped into?
So we should, let's see here. This is going to be some sort of antechamber, I think, to sort of probably the main area.
Okay.
Would be my guess at this point. The blacksmith room, or some sort of like staging area for either the assault on the earth on the earth, or for like whatever kind of things they need to do in the shrine, whatever kind of
what if it's like a reverse baptismal? So there's a bunch of like crusty old like mummified skeletons that are above water, and like that was their whole thing, is like they were like ascetic monks that were like staying out of the water, but there's this big ceremonial pool to like tempt them into like saving themselves at any point.
I like it because the PCs wouldn't be able to like figure that out, so they would just have to wonder why there's a bunch of like a bunch of mummified bodies. Like I like that kind of idea.
Oh yeah, because it could be like, so the real answer is that, but maybe it also sort of looks like it's prisoners who are tied up and being held back.
Yep.
Yeah, but if they investigate, it's like all of them are actually holding the keys to the chains that like they bound themselves with. So they like have a latch key on their necks that they could have used to undo their irons.
And I think let's remember, it's okay for the PCs not to like figure out what's going on. It's okay for there to be like, what the heck was up with that moment?
Yeah.
So, okay.
And then there could just be
some good dressing for this room.
There could be just some servitor fish people in here, because we've only had one room that definitely has a fish person in it. So like maybe this is the room where like two or three of them are like paying their respects or praying or something like that, milling around or doing something like, stealing themselves spiritually for their dark grisly deeds to come.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is 1d4 fishmen.
There you go.
Andy, what are their names?
Oh boy. D&D lore does have the best names for some of these underwater races and deities. Like, there is a deity in D&D, and Kyle, you'll have to help me out here. It's like Blip Dual Pool. It's one of like it. They obviously got really silly with some of the aquatic deities in their Anyway, they are. I'll come up with their names later, but not right now. So just like one fish person here for every PC in the party.
Yeah.
Okay. And what are they wearing and wielding? Like we've had the statues of them with tridents before, and maybe the one in the other room was like a cleric who would have some sort of maybe priestly vestments. But what do these guys have? These are just schmoes.
Yeah, these are what they're kind of like tending to stuff in here. Are they? I mean, they could just
they're doing some kind of religious sacrament or something like that.
What's a cool like weapon or something that they can be wielding that's not like what you would expect? Like, so maybe one can have a trident. Like, what's just something interesting that would be like tactically interesting? Like, I'm thinking something like a net or something. Not a net. But something where they're not just going to like run and swing at you with it, but they're going to try to like, I don't know, something that's tactically interesting.
Hooks?
Yeah. Like, so would they like things that like hook around your neck or like what, like.
Yeah, what? Like just like giant, like almost like scythes, but they're meat hooks. Like the little hand scythe or something like that. But you would use it to like stab someone and bring him closer.
Yeah.
And then maybe I've always thought like some kind of weird priestly weapon would be like a censer, like those iron dishes, and like maybe this is the room where they're allowed to burn stuff, and so maybe that has some kind of like, not only does it hurt to get smacked in the face with it, but it has some kind of like hallucinogenic quality to it as well. So like, even just something like fear or something like that would just like, if you get smacked in the face, you get real messed up.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, just something to make the fight a little more interesting.
Yeah.
And then what kind of terrain are we fighting in? Is it like, so half of the room is water, right?
Yeah, half the room is water. There's at least one dry patch where all the shackled Kuatoa are, and then I mean probably the rest of it is just similar.
Yeah, I want to avoid the PCs having to like do much fighting like in water, just because that's like a pain.
It could be like a step well. It's like something that there's staircases leading out of it.
That's good.
So, but there's like this big basin in the middle, but they can climb up the staircases if they're fast enough. And then like around the outside of it is where these kind of like mummies are raised up on pedestals, and like shrines. Yep. There are shrines underneath these pedestals where the fish people are.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. is the height of this room, like, is it super tall? Like,
I'm
does it sort
picturing
of,
it being pretty tall.
like,
Yeah.
does it match sort of the height of the slide?
And can the PCs get back up to the slide easily, or not? Like,
No.
It's a one-way
I
thing.
think maybe this leads around back to the chamber after the underwater chamber from the main
okay, yep.
the chamber. So like they can get back to the hub through a staircase, but they can't go directly back the way that they came.
Yeah. Okay. I like the not being able to get back the way they came.
Yeah.
And having to press forward.
Okay. So
Okay.
Okay. All right.
So this is a pretty big room. This is pretty large.
Yeah.
And then what are the exit ways out of this room?
I think there's the slide, and then there's one other exit that goes goes back to the room after the hub.
Okay. So that
And this is going to go to like the shrine room, right? This in my head, right? So there's kind of like there's going to be some passageway up to the shrine room. So that's sort of above then the like treasure chamber that's off the main cistern.
Yeah, this could go up. There could be two exits. There could be the slide. There could be the stairs. There's the stairs back to the hub room, and then there could be like the stairs leading up to the shrine room that's above the cistern. Yeah. Unless I've completely mapped this incorrectly.
No, that's fine. I think this is where we're trying to figure it out, and this is one disadvantage of just talking it through. So I think in my head, like, so you go down the slide, you hit this kind of like, I'm calling it the antechamber, but whatever it ends up being, and then from there's sort of like a grand staircase of some sort that goes up. Goes back up, and that goes into like the shrine room, which we'll describe that. It's going to be amazing. And then there's some sort of statue in the middle of it where people are like throwing gold and silver and whatever into. That falls down a pit into like a treasure room, and then that treasure room connects up with the cistern.
Yes, that's it right there. I think. Yep.
Bingo, bango.
Okay, so let's do the stairway up to this shrine room.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Taking a stairway. So here's an idea. Towards the top of the stairs, can there be like a brick out of the wall or something like that that looks into an abandoned cellar or basement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then that basement like collapsed, so there's still, it's like partially collapsed or sealed off. So there's treasure in there still that someone was storing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Of course. What else would
this
they
is
do?
my this is my little part I'm insisting on. Okay. So
No,
there's
I
just
like
a
that.
little, and totally optional. They would have to dig out the wall a bit to get in. But if they do, there's some treasure in there, and then maybe, I don't know, maybe a monster. I don't know what would be in there, but
architecturally too, that could look just like wildly different. So it could feel like this is really this nice contrast too.
Yeah,
like
it should be totally different. Yep.
Yeah. So all the walls are square rather than rounded. That sort of stuff.
And it's just like a small basement, not a big side chamber, just like a basement-sized room.
Okay.
I think
collapsed.
I think that's a great situation for like, it'll take you 10 minutes to remove the loose bricks, but I get to make a roll on the random encounters table in that time.
That's exactly perfect right there. Yeah. So the price of like getting in there is you're going to get a roll on the random encounter table, which we need to flesh out a little bit more, by the way. But yes. And then we'll come up with some treasure to make it worth their while to explore that basement area. And if they need to rest or something like that, that could be like a defensible spot.
I like it.
Okay. So, but then they continue, and we'll write up some treasure for in there, right? I'm looking at the time. I don't want us to take too much longer on this guy.
Yeah. Well, I think we've almost got it cracked here. So it seems like real quick, so the staircase going up, right? Like if you are a fish person, I think that like this should feel so like you're a fish person, like you're used to sliding and kind of slithering and stuff like that. So like walking upstairs, I think is like an ultimate sacrifice sort of thing.
Fortress. Yep.
Yeah, an ultimate like show of your devotion. Yeah, going up these stairs.
Ooh, yeah, maybe like the banisters have like spikes on them or something like that. It's like if you reach out for the handrails, like you get cut.
Yeah. But they're there. Or probably just like, you could just do like a bunch of like tiny tridents along the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that detail, actually. That's cool.
Okay.
So when they reach the top, it opens up into like the central shrine. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
And then what's being worshipped? What's worshipped here? What is the fish person god?
Oh, it's got to be like an angler god or something like that. So like the
Like a
the
dad
this
and
pit-
waiters?
Yeah, so the pit that they're throwing their treasure in is like the mouth of this like big like toothy anglerfish, and then lighting this room is like this magical orb that's like over, like there's this angler antenna hanging over it that's like giving you this like, sickly green glow from the top of the staircase.
Okay. So the rogue is going to steal that orb.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that. Okay, so that's interesting. And then maybe
That's got to
in that
be booby trapped. That's got to be booby trapped.
Yeah. I'm just going to write totally booby trapped.
Totally booby trapped.
Okay.
Leave this up to the GM to decide their fate.
So what else is in this room that the PCs can interact with? And there's got to be a fight here of some kind, right?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's some sort of like, the Kuato priest who's driving this whole thing. Or is it a Kuatoa? Or is it, some other sort of thing?
It could be, like, I don't know, a dark elf who's figured out how to control these things, or if it is like a priest, I mean, it would be cool to give him some sort of like a familiar companion, like some sort of octopus creature, something weird and cool.
Like
so
they're not just floating octopus.
So they're not just fighting like a priest version of the same fishman they've been battling.
What if it's like the money priest or something like that, and he can like summon like a gold coin golem or something like that. So like all the spare coins would like coalesce into this like bipedal creature that's just going to wallop you.
Huh. And it would like rise up from the water below. Is that the idea?
From the mouth of the anglerfish?
Yeah. Or even just from like the coins that are strewn about the room. Either, like maybe there's a lot of like any wishing well kind of thing. Like there's a lot of like stray change around the mouth of this thing still.
Yeah.
Like, because, their hands are so slippery. They can't get everything exactly where it's supposed to go.
Yeah. I wonder. Okay, so I don't think a golem. I think like going with Andy's idea, the familiar being some sort of other.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like an octopus or something like that. I think that's a really fun idea. So maybe it's like coins and like any other sort of random bones and stuff around.
Yeah, maybe like a sea cucumber or something like that.
Okay.
Those things...
what are some aquatic creatures that the PCs might enjoy, seeing in an aquatic themed thing? So there's octopus, there's like turtles, starfish, but evil turtles.
Starfish. Starfish are cool.
Starfish movement 0.
Yeah.
Eels, electric eels, I don't know, what are some
little crab.
Crabs are cool.
Yeah. Giant evil crab.
Oh yeah, because there's really gross spider crabs that have super long legs and lanky arms.
Those things are pretty creepy looking.
And they're like 9 feet wide, some of them. So
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so spider crab it is, I think.
Okay, yeah. So spider crab with a priest creature that a priest that is controlling it or something like that.
Yeah, maybe the priest is riding on the back of this spider crab in a palanquin or something like that. And so he doesn't have to take the stairs, and he's casting spells from this thing's back while the spider crab is also making independent attacks.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Would he be sitting in there though? So when the PCs get in, does he make a run for the pallet. I mean, he's not sitting up there lounging on this creature.
No, he's like up there throat singing or something like that, doing some weird, or like praying to each coin that he throws into this mouth, or he's got to be doing something weird.
Well, I do like the idea that the PCs have been hearing a weird song get louder as they approach the shrine thing,
or flute playing or something like that.
Do you remember Chris in Dark Souls 2? Do you remember that area where you hear that creepy singing through the whole level, and it's like a creepy frog thing? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
that's what I was kind of imagining. Yeah.
No, I like that a lot. And then we should also remember that we have our hostage, the worker from over the tavern. So I think this is where they are. So maybe that priest guy has been singing, and he's slowly throwing coins in, and and also in that pile is the
captive.
Yeah, the captive.
Okay.
Too. So it's maybe it's like coins, but it's also other valuable things. I don't know exactly what it would be, but lots of different stuff, and the final thing is going to be this living sacrifice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that works. Yep.
Okay. All right.
What if
so then
could some of the goods? I wonder if they've been sneaking out and stealing stuff, and some of it would be recognizable, but that probably is a little bit too much.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good hook for the GM, right? Is you could, whatever in-game thing has gone missing.
Yeah.
In the
area
shows up there. Or you could have it be all sorts of stuff. So then I think, so that
like a Honda Accord.
Yeah. Yeah. That room then, how big is that, right? So we've talked about a 9-foot wide crab.
Yeah. It needs to be really big to allow for the fight to have movement and be interesting.
And there should be some other foot soldiers in there as well to spice things up a little bit.
So some things that would make this fight interesting are maybe some of the maybe some of the enemies can try not to kill you but to push you into the water. And it's maybe really slippery, immediately around the water, immediately around the pit. It's slippery, and so if you go there, got to make a roll to not fall in.
Yeah, maybe they have harpoons that have ropes on them, so they they get you, and then they try to drag you back to up towards the mountain, or up towards the altar or whatever.
Yeah. Have you guys seen the Harry Potter movies?
Long time.
Okay, there's the Basilisk's Chamber in Chamber of Secrets. Spoiler alert. That's what I'm envisioning. There's sort of there's a dryish spot that fills most of the chamber, but then on either side maybe there is troughs of water.
Yeah.
Right, going around.
Yep, that works.
So there's that, and then kind of in the middle center is the giant anglerfish. So their goal is to sort of throw you in there.
Yeah.
And then there's some statues and stuff of Kuo-toa's holding tridents and stuff.
I love it. Yeah, and then they could maybe the harpooners could move double speed by sliding through those troughs or something to get around behind you or something like that.
That's good. Right
Okay.
there. A few things like that I think will go a long way to making the fight more interesting.
Okay.
And then so you have this big crab, and you have a couple of kind of throwaway minion fish people, and you have a priest who's on the back of the crab casting spells, right?
Yeah.
So these guys are all pretty wimpy because these are first level PCs, but that should be a great fight, I think.
Especially if the spells that he's casting would be to immobilize you or slow you down, so that you're easier to harpoon.
Yeah,
and in fact, maybe they're actively working at least at first to capture, not kill, and then maybe they only shift to kill when things get desperate as the PCs are killing.
Yeah, maybe it's instead of a wizard, it's a bard, because it's already playing music. So it would be casting bardic spells guide or inspire or whatever.
I really like that because
perfect.
The bard is never the final boss, and they should be. So
Now
the PCs Yeah, that's an interesting set of spells and effects that the PCs will get hit with. That's a good idea.
So it's like they're almost fighting against time a little bit. So I think at some point too, the Kuo-toa Bard priest thing could also probably throw the captive in, right? Like
Okay.
maybe it's its final action, or like if you take out all of the all the other like warriors in that area, like that's its next move is to just go ahead and toss the captive in there.
So then the PCs would pretty much have to jump in after, right?
Yeah.
Is that the key for like PCs leave?
I think so I think they take out the bard, right, and like save before the captive can go in, or they throw the captive in, they can take out the bard and like can survive for a couple minutes underwater, so they can then make the decision about are they going to go after it or not, right? Because like it's not just like I'm not envisioning it as like full of water up to the brim. I'm envisioning it again as like a 200-foot drop into water that's just at the bottom of it's just full of coins and stuff. So.
Like the Goonies.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I've never seen time, guys.
Mark that down. At a certain point of desperation, the enemies shift from capture to kill, and then when it's down to just the priest, he tries to dump the captive. Maybe.
Yeah.
Is that it?
I think that's it.
What? Yeah,
maybe he's even hoping his god will respond to the sacrifice and save him and save him, but it doesn't.
What if it does? What if it actually like hates that the proper procedure? So like this weird sea slug like comes up through the altar and like bites the head off of this bard and then just goes back to sleep.
You didn't sing it right. Yeah.
Okay, so so then the PCs defeat the guys up here.
Yeah.
So in a minute they're going to have to jump down there maybe to save the captive, and eventually they'll come to the conclusion that the only way back out is to go down. We'll have to find some way to make it a little bit clear that it's not instant death to just drop down there, right?
Right.
So maybe they can see down there, and they can see the gold they could see the gleaming gold down there, and they can see that it's a survivable drop, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, they won't have like 200 feet of rope on them probably, so to lower themselves down or anything.
That's a good point.
Could there be like an access, like, I mean, this sounds cheesy, like an access ladder or something like that? Like for going even, up and down?
Even just like if there's like uneven bricks or mosaics or something, just it's like some kind of athletics check surmountable problem.
Yeah, I think, and this could be like, I don't want to give the players all the answers, right? This could just be something where you just get surprised by how the players.
That's a good point too. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just like, okay, now what, right? Like you can, and make it obvious that like that is a path. Like you could just jump into there. And one question I have, so like with the anglerfish shrine thing, and I think we're almost there, but like when stuff gets thrown in there, does it respond in any way? Like, is it a real god, or is this like totally fake? Because I mean, like we have that orb, right? Like every time something gets thrown in, it could just like brighten a little bit,
Yeah.
If it does something modest, like some modest thing, just it's a little bit more creepy than anything else. To suggest that there is some sort of malign intelligence down here, still responding to worship. I like that.
Yeah.
Should the players ever be able to actually communicate with any of the Kuo-toa, or is this like totally an antagonistic cult?
I think that they should be able to communicate if they can speak like Undercommon or whatever the Kuo-toa language is. We can look it up. But that the Kuo-toa are just naturally disposed to be very hostile and to consider humans like, fit to be slaves. That's my instinctive response. So, I mean, maybe the party can be really clever in some way and still strike up some sort of a negotiation.
Yeah, but their default assumption is like, oh, good, humans are here. We can enslave them.
Exactly,
or throw them into anglerfish.
So what's some cool treasure that the PCs find up here, either on the Bard or like, stashed away up here? What's something cool that's, I mean, maybe there's like a +1 or weapon or two up here, but what's something that's like a cool magic item that would be really fun to add to the party while still being level 1 appropriate?
The deck of many things.
Yeah.
yeah.
With 5 cards pre-selected for it. I like something that has to do with like breathing underwater. So not like breathe underwater forever, but breathe underwater for 5 minutes or something like that.
What magic item would the Kuo-toa find useful? So they can already breathe underwater.
Yeah.
So what would they find useful that has an aquatic theme?
Maybe some kind of like charm spell thing, or like a siren song thing is what I'm thinking for the bard, especially. Yeah, for fish. Like this idea that they are tempting. They would have some kind of like mind control thingamajig.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not aquatic theme, but that, like, when I think of like aquatic myths, there's like this temptation aspect to a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I like that a lot. Yeah, so maybe there's just like a little megaphone that they hold that they can sing through. But like maybe it could be like a harp or something like that.
Yeah, there you go.
Is there anything like movement related? Would it be overpowered to like, if you're, I don't know,
what if
speed up your movement if you're like touching water, something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what if they like their garments themselves are designed to like move through water really well, right? Because they're sliding around on them a lot, so it's like it doesn't quite fit you. But if you ever wanted to use it to swim, you would have the same movement.
Yeah, yeah,
and like it's totally waterproof as well. Yeah, so they could like stitch it together to make a tent that can withstand anything.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, that sounds good. And then I think one or two like more mundane things, and the Dungeon Master's Guide probably has guides for like appropriate.
Yeah,
like
I mean, I think a trident, right? Like a +1 trident would be rad to be able to come out of there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, well, we are almost at our like allotted time. Funny how that worked out perfectly. But...
Yeah, that did work out really well. Yeah.
This sounds like honestly a really fun dungeon to run.
It does.
So I think Andy and I will probably take some time and just sort of finish up a couple of ideas and get it together, and then of course we'll be running it. So I'm not sure the timing on this. Likely this will go up, and then we will have recorded the playthrough episode as well. So this should go up in kind of short order, and maybe you can listen to it on your way to whatever you're doing for the holidays. So yeah, but I think we're good. Any kind of parting shots before we wrap up? Totally.
I still think we should nail Falcor to the wall.
Okay.
We'll put an appendix at the end of the adventure. Like, optional encounter, creepy Falcor. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, I really love how this turned out. I really loved collaborating on this, and this would have taken me twice as long to come up with something half as good. So I think this turned out really well.
Well, Kyle, I hope you don't mind us. Like, some of your ideas are so cool that they feel a little out of scope for like one shot. Like, so I hope you haven't minded us. Like the whole whale with the psychic, remoras or whatever like that. I mean,
great.
I hope you filed that away for future use because that's some good stuff. I think this will be good length for like a one shot. I think. Yeah. Like, I think this could be done. And one thing I kind of like is if the PCs can kind of make it pretty quickly to the end if they want. But they can also spend more time exploring around. So
I think probably one note we could give like for the GM is just like if it's going too fast, just sort of switch the wings, if you will.
Yep.
So it's like whatever wing they go down, that ends up being kind of the barracks wing first, right? Just to to make it go a little bit. Not that GMs would ever do something like that on the fly.
Wait. Yeah, Chris. Okay. You're off the show.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap it up. So I've been Chris Salzman.
I have been Andy Rao.
And this week we were joined by Kyle Latino.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I forgot my name.
Kyle, for real, thank you so much for coming on. This was
Kyle,
super
this
fun.
is fantastic. We're really grateful you came on. This was way more fun with you participating.
Thank you for inviting me. This is exactly my jam. So
Okay. All right, thanks guys, and have a good holiday.
Yeah, thanks everybody, and just remember, if your players are having fun, you're a great GM.
Yay!
All right.
It's true.